It's the Genius Portal. Podcast is here. Come play in your heart.
You look really cute.
I was going to say we're so matching. Like our high necks and our glasses and our hair tucked off to the side.
My goodness. Okay, how better than to start the Full-Time Genius podcast with a little self-embellishment plug. We look cute. We hope you're looking cute today too and feeling it. I'm here with beautiful Rachel, who is probably actually one of my oldest friends that I'm still like deeply connected to in my life. We've known each other since we were kids. We used to sing together. Which, wow, I'm just realizing we're here for the album and that's like how we got to know each other. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a lot of different phases of life together. And now we just do life together. Like you're one of my bridesmaids, which is a job that doesn't end.
Never ending.
Until if I become a bridesmaid for you one day, and then I'll be the one that always is on bridesmaids duty. Claire and I are just gonna have to get married again so that I can get back on that. That's an ongoing joke, but yeah, Rach is one of the kindest people that I know, and to me has this real genius of just being able to show up unconditionally in a space and love whoever's there. Like you're really able to actually see gold in people. It's something that you do so effortlessly. And it's beautiful to be around because I think so many of us have this condition of judgment and are naturally, well, not naturally actually, but have learnt to notice the red flags or notice the negatives of people. And it's really cool to have you as this reminder of, but what's the goal? Like, what do you love about them? What's the kindness in them, or what's the gift? And you do that so naturally. Like it's really, really cool. So I'm really excited to have you here today for so many reasons, and to talk about full-time genius and just wherever we go, because inevitably we're going to go down some sort of rabbit hole. Yeah, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi. What an introduction. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm uncomfortable. Also, I felt my heart be like, oh, that's so lovely. So thank you. Yeah, I'm really stoked. I had that like random thoughts you do in the shower the other night, and I was like, oh my God, isn't it cool that I get to talk to Ellie on her podcast, which is about her music? And I had this moment of like, we were in this musical Cats together. And like, I just remember Ali with like her little towel when she was in a different group to me. You were the one above me. But I just remember it being such a standout. And I was thinking how amazing that I get to reconnect with you and be part of this space when that's where we began our connection. And so it's so cool and to see it be like your own music now as well. So yeah, it's just so special to be here and chat about that and have these little moments coming back to. And the impact that you'll have through it will be amazing.
It's so cool. It really brings this sense of innocence and play, and I think actually that's really fitting, because when you're in your genius and when you're in your gold, which is what you were the muse for, there is innocence. You are connected, you are open to playing, you are enjoying and actually present with life. And yeah, it's really beautiful to have that energy here. So I would love to dive into the shoot. So Rach was the muse for Full-Time Genius, and actually initially it was really interesting with you because we kind of went through who you're going to be, and there wasn't really that clarity. And I just knew that you were going to be a part of it, and you were like, yeah, I'm going to be a part of it. We were like, who are you going to be? And we didn't know, and we were kind of in this limbo. It was really interesting. But tell me, what kind of, I need to stop saying kind of. I need to, like, not a swear jar, but a kind of jar. I say it so much when I don't mean it. Like sometimes I mean kind of, but most of the time I mean it directly.
Yeah.
What went through your mind when I invited you And what was the process like for you dancing through these possible different archetypes or muses that you were going to become, and then finally arriving in Full-Time Genius? What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, I think the invitation came at like a really interesting point in my life.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it was that piece. It was like so obvious that I wanted to be involved like in your work. It was just like, yeah, I'm going to be there. And I think also there was a part of me that's like I'm so happy just to support, like, even if I'm not in the photos myself, because I think I was a bit like uncomfortable. It felt like a stretch to be in them because I've seen like all your photo shoots before and just like the vulnerability in the like women who have been involved. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that level of vulnerability in the shoot. And yeah, at this point in my life, I was getting ready to kind of transition into a new job as well. And I was having like things pop up in like my relationships. And I'd obviously been doing some of your courses. And so there was like, I guess there was the point of like potentially being the mermaid. And then I was like, oh no, like that's a bit too in my emotions for me right now. And I think the end result when I was looking at it, it was like, okay, what actually do I want to be committing to, like seeing myself step the most into? Like I don't have to. And I also was like with Full-Time Genius, I was like, that's Ellie. Like that's just her. Like that's just what she does. And so I feel like there's this piece of like in our society, like tall poppy syndrome and like wanting to cut ourselves down and judging potentially like how we show up in that space versus against other people. And so I was like, had to kind of come to like, actually really do want to be in that space of a full-time genius, but also come to the piece of like, okay, like I will show up differently to how Ali will show up, but it doesn't mean that I can't be that and embody that. And yeah, it's a process and it's a journey, and you've been committing to this process for years, you know, and yeah, I'm still so new and so green in it, but I still can be that. And yeah, it was just beautiful to step into that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think that's part of the whole message of the concept or the end result of being a full-time genius is not to do it like anyone else. It's to do it like you. And that is going to be different. And that's really the message in the song too, is like there's like this almost tiredness actually in my voice in the song, because it's like this energy of begging. It's like, can you please wake, like please realize, please wake up to the fact that you are a full-time genius. That is what you were born to be, and that is who you are in essence and naturally. And I'm like shaking the shoulders, you know, that's like what the energy feels like in the song for me. So I think it's really cool. It's been really beautiful and cool to have you in that space, just with that intention of, yeah, I want to receive the gift of this energy. I want to receive the gift of that archetype as me. And you nailed it. It was incredible. The photos are stunning. I love the photos of you, but I love the photos of us as well. They're really, really beautiful. And those of you listening, there'll be one of them as the cover of this episode, but you'll have to just come stalk us on socials to see some more of the rest. We gotta get some up. Yeah. So cool. I'd love to hear what you loved about the day, the photo shoot day, and also if there was any particular challenge that you overcame.
Yeah, I think before anything, there's always like for me the challenge of kind of like getting myself to the space and just being like ready to be open and receive the gift that's there. And I always knew there was going to be gifts from the day. Like it's just a general, when you get a room full of community together that are so like heart opening, it's impossible not to receive beautiful gifts from it. But I think that was the challenge of getting myself there, and the challenge of putting myself out and being vulnerable and being seen like through the lens of a camera, and knowing that it's going to a large volume of people, and without having the layer of like judgment of myself of what I look like and those kind of like societal things that I guess females go through. Yeah, it was a challenge, I think, to step into my heart space. And I think that's what you kept on saying to me, just like step into your heart space and just keep on choosing to feel yourself as empowered. And I think that really, supported me to lean into that. And I feel like you could feel the difference in those moments. And I feel like that's what came out through the photos as well, was those moments where it was like, oh yeah, there you are. And yeah, so I think that was a beautiful gift. I was at my last week of my job that I was leaving. And so it was literally 2 days before I was leaving that. And I remember feeling so amazing over the next 2 days as I like transitioned out of that job and was so open to receiving the beautiful feedback that people were giving me. And I was like, I don't think I would have been that open had I not had that and been like, yeah, like I'm worthy to receive this feedback of the great things I have done. So that was beautiful. And then just the connections with everyone else and seeing them step in to those different archetypes was incredible, because I think everyone, you know, is like, oh, we want to do such a good job. But really just saw everyone, just unlock, unleash, and just really be present for the joy and the innocence that was there and the play and the art that came out from it. It was just like, you can't force that. It's only through natural flow that it happens. Yeah.
It's so cool. It's really only hitting me in the last couple of days how we made this art that's just going to be there forever. It's going to be there forever. It's kind of like publishing a book. It's just out there forever. And it's so cool. It's so cool that we did it all together, and it feels so magical and powerful that the first album that I'm sharing with the world is one that's such an artistic collaboration with so many incredible women. It's really special. And it's been really special, and even doing all of these, having these conversations has been really, powerful. I feel vulnerable, actually. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. What do you feel like? Has there been an ongoing ripple from that day for you?
Yeah, there kind of has. I think, I transitioned into a new job, but I think I just took such a different perspective into it. I, naturally, lent into overwhelm, but the piece that you talk about, your heart cracking, I feel like a few weeks ago I got to this point and I was like, what am I choosing? Like, how am I showing up in like my full-time genius? And had that real moment of that crack that I don't think I would have got without having that opportunity to embody it. And then from that, like my voice came, and I just found myself in situations where I was like choosing to be powerful, and people were like reflecting that back, and I was like, man, like I didn't have that before. And people were like, how did you all of a sudden? I was like, I just chose. And I think it's because when you get the opportunity, to slowly embody and get these lessons, it's like it becomes so obvious that that's your only choice, is that you have to be choosing yourself and challenging yourself to step more into that space. And so I think that that only really dawned on me a few weeks ago. It was like, because I had that chance to be there, and I have such amazing role models like you in my life to show me that it's possible and to show me that it's a way. And if we don't have them, then we don't have the guideposts. We just have whatever else we're being fed.
Yeah, I really get that. It's like relationships. Like we see a lot of poor relationships, but we don't see a lot of relationships that hold each other to greatness or that stick with each other in the great joy as well as the pain. Something that Claire and I have been reflecting on a bit lately in just our community and just in general, like not as an attack on anyone or anything like that, but just as like we have a session for our relationship every weekend together, where we get together and we connect with what we're creating in our goals and what we want to make in our lives. And one of those things is our community and how important that is to us. And And so we connect about it. We talk about our community once a week. And something that came up last week, we were talking about how it's really interesting noticing the more joy that's in our life and the more success and expansion and magic and genius, and the more full-time that genius becomes, the more either exciting or triggering it is for people. And it points out to us in our community the people who are excited for us and inspired by us and cheerlead us in the same way that we absolutely would for them, you know. But also the gold in the friends who are challenged by it, but who stay anyway and who show up anyway. And we've noticed it a little bit with this pending Claire and I moving away for a while. And it's even come up for us, like, okay, if we're in that full-time genius space, which is our end result for our life and where we want to be coming from. And what we mean by that, by the way, listeners, hello, everyone, is just being able to be in the magic of who you are all the time, or at least more often than not. We're not aiming for perfection, but if you can be your true self more, then we believe that your magic's going to reflect to you more in your life, and that your heart's going to be reflected to you more in your life, and that life's going to feel more fulfilling. So that's what we mean by being a full-time genius. And we definitely think that that's unique for everyone and what's different for everyone. But part of that we've been noticing coming up for us is like, okay, if we're in our full-time genius, we can go anywhere in the world for however long and still feel connected to the people that we love the most. And that doesn't have to come with a condition of we spoke once a week or we didn't or whatever. But to me, it's just there's a depth of connection that there's a commitment to from all parties. And that's going to look different again in every single friendship and in every relationship. But we've just noticed that there's been a bit of contraction in the people around us, and even some aloofness from people around us since we've told them we're going away. Like people saying stuff like, oh, never mind, we won't invite you because you'll probably still be away then. Or, oh, don't start putting energy into this with us because you're going to leave. Or, you know, just like these little flippant comments. And it's like, well, actually, we might be leaving, but we aren't leaving your heart. Like, we're not leaving your life. We're going on a trip.
Yeah.
And we don't even know. Like, we're booking a one-way flight, we're booking a one-way flight to the other end of the world. So yeah, that could be dramatic, but we don't know. We might stay there for 2 months and go, let's go home. We don't know. We're really open to that. And so, yeah, the point, I guess, is we've been really connecting with this vision of people staying with us in the joy, in the great expansion, which I actually think can be harder than people staying with us authentically in pain. I think actually people are familiar with drama and pain and being there through shit. And some people aren't, but it's almost like that's more comfortable than, wow, my life's incredible and it's full of all these amazing things. Can you stay open in your heart with me and celebrate it? It's like, that's harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you resonate with that?
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's such a like conditioned thing. Like I personally feel like in my own life, like I can see it play out so much, and it's like it's so challenging to see sometimes your friends be in that complete state of joy, and you're like, man, it's highlighting to me all these things that maybe I wanted to achieve and I haven't, and I've fallen short. And instead of, I guess, having that mindset of like, okay, let's celebrate them and let's work on ourselves and find that. It's like, you do sometimes just want to put up a wall and distance yourself. And I guess it's that choice again, and what you're willing to miss out on. Like if you don't stay in the joy with them because you're so in your own about it, then you're missing out on that depth and that layer and that expansion, because ultimately it will gift you with more. But I definitely know I've chosen that in relationships before, where it's just been like, fuck, just having so much amazing things happen. I'm like, why haven't I done that? But yeah, I guess it's inevitable. That's life. Everyone's going to have these amazing grand moments. We're all different.
Yeah.
That's just the experience that is. But yeah, and it's hard. I think that's like society wise as well, what's kind of reflected, and especially here in WA, like we see a lot of people get ripped down from being in these amazing joyful states because we don't like that. We don't like other people to be having these experiences that we can't have.
It's quite sad, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It was really cool. Like recently in Africa, Claire and I went on this African trip. Maybe we'll do an episode about that because it was a lot of magic in there and fun, and it was a workshop too, so we did a lot of learning. But we were there with all these other creatives who are creating all these other amazing things in their life. And what I just really a real gift that I got from that space was this energy of everyone's in their full-time genius, you know, everyone's doing their own or living their own expression of that and really living it and really present to it and with it. And so then the path of least resistance becomes pulling more genius out of each other and shining more light on it. And I have this vision that I want to have a castle, which I just said that out loud to everyone. That's wild. That's so fun. But I want a castle, and it's in my land of plenty, which is this shamanic journey that we go through ourselves and also with our coaching clients for seeing what's the true calling of our heart right now. Anyway, so I have this choice, this thing about a castle, and it's been really interesting because it's so, to me, like barrier breaking of how big I can go or how good it can be, or how, like, I've always wanted to have a castle, but I think I've also put it in fantasy land of like, yeah, what kid doesn't want a fucking castle, you know, but whatever, give me, of course, but I haven't taken it at face value. And if I think of the other things that I wanted to do as a kid, I wanted to make music and I wanted to write and I wanted to help people, and that's my life right now. So why am I discounting the castle? But it was cool because I choose it every day. I connect with the vision every day. And I just didn't realize that I was shrinking it. And part of that was also this unconscious fear that I was running of, well, how good it gets for Claire and I, more people are going to leave. More people are going to disconnect from us.
Yeah, so like vulnerable. That's what I just feel like in like that joy state, that you kind of do open yourself up to be more vulnerable. And I think like the moments where I've experienced it, maybe been triggered, like, and even being able to like say it out to someone, you're like, wow, this is huge, you know. And it might be that like they're achieving something great and you're in your own vulnerability about not having that and being able to express that, and what that allows for the depth of your relationship and vice versa. But I think, it's that full-time like vulnerability piece and how much we're willing to crack open and keep that flowing and going, so that we can get the castles, that we actually do have the friends there that come. I'll be first in. I'll be like, hello, sign me up.
And it's funny because when I connect to my heart in it, I just can't fathom how it could be a bad thing for one of your friends to have a castle. I can't see it. It doesn't, you know, and make the castle symbolic of anything. I don't see how it could be a bad thing if one of our friends becomes an artist or produces art or shares music or writes books or starts a business or becomes an affiliate marketer, like whatever they want to do, becomes a painter, gets an apprenticeship. Like, how could it be anything other than a joy if it's actually them following their joy? But we come against this resistance, I think, because when people go for joy around us, we're reflected with this ick of where we're not, and where we're not giving ourselves permission to. So I think it's actually a crucial part of being that full-time genius is actually the vulnerability. Often in workshop spaces, it's interesting, we've got the the Genius Portal retreat coming up soon, which is all about stepping into what's called elemental magic, but it's like the path to your genius and living a magical life, right? And so it's just been really on my brain recently, these premises and concepts, and been writing content for it and doing the workbook and whatnot. And what's really become obvious to me through doing that is this pattern of how not effortless, actually, it's still vulnerable to acknowledge what we're struggling with and what we're feeling shame around and what we're having grief or anger, or like those heavier emotions are still vulnerable. But I actually find that, at least in our containers and in a safe space, or even in a relationship safe space, it's easier for people, or I've been seeing it's easier for people to go, this is what I'm struggling with. This is my pain. This is my excuse. This is my reason why I can't. That's easier than going, here's what's possible. If I could have everything that I wanted and be completely outrageous with my dreams, this is where I'm going. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I feel like the myth's busting around that for me, and I just want more of the like, if you could do anything, what would you do? So I'm going to ask you literally right now.
Oh my God. I was so like, I'm so there at owning all this stuff that's not working for me. Don't ask me that. Yeah, it's wild.
Even to like prolong your moment of sitting in that.
Yeah.
It's even interesting to go, as like, you're one of my best friends, right? I know what you struggle with so well, so clearly, and I even know your gifts and talents, but I couldn't pave a map of what your dreams are.
Yeah.
I don't know that. There's like bits, but isn't that so interesting?
It is, because I feel like for me, it's like I just have held it back, I think, for so many years. Like, I think as a young child, I was super creative. I like painted bloody bottles in holidays and sung and danced and did so many different like adventures. Like, I sold earrings. Like, I used to make earrings and sell them at my school for like different dance things, because that was just something like, weirdly enough, like an entrepreneur in me was like, I could make some toffees and sell them to people and pretend that the money's going somewhere. Like, I had all these ideas that would brew, where I think like now, yeah, over time, I've just slowly like stopped that part of me. So it's like such a weird concept to be like, anything's possible. I've just been so used to living in the construct of society and playing into like the business models and stuff that just is our normal operation, even though I have so many people in my life that like step out of those constructs and show me so many different ways. But I think there's ultimately like this part of me that's just like desire to, as scary as it is, like I love like families and those kind of things, because I think like kids and stuff just bring out such a natural sense of creativity. But yeah, I think it's something I do have questioning a lot around me right now. If I took away my layers of like my dyslexia and my feelings and my abilities to read and interact in situations and understand how people are talking and if that's what they really meant, and yeah, if I took all of that away, what would I be doing? Is really the current question, I think. Yeah.
It's interesting because we have such an intentional friendship too. Like Rachel's one of the friends that like we do all of our Wheel of the Year rituals with, and we celebrate our moons together, and like we spend time in ritual together, sharing our goals, sharing our visions.
Yeah.
And it's just occurring to me that the visions that I've heard you share, and catch me if I'm breaking confidentiality or anything like that, are either shorter term Like this is something that you want to do, or like characteristic, like I want to be more vulnerable in this relationship specifically, or I want to feel more empowered in this relationship, or I'm being a little bit vague in honor of, you know, the what's that in the circle stays in the circle.
I love that.
But you know, it's kind of like more specific short terms, or like improving things that are already here in your world rather than outside of the box. Or, you know, this time next year I'd love this. You're like, next year we're going 6 month cycles or 6 weeks, sorry.
Literally. I was thinking this the other day. I love Christmas. And Carols in the Domain has been something that I've wanted to go to for years. Like I literally Christmas Eve and like Carols in the Domain. It's happening. And I only the other week finally booked my flights to go to Melbourne to it. And there was so much uncertainty. I was like, who's coming with me, who's not? And I finally got to this point and I was like, I need to start looking ahead. I can't keep on living my life in such a short-term basis and dependent on other people's conditions and structures, because at the end of the day, I can't control any of that. All I can control is what I'm going to choose. And what I'm going to choose is to go over there and enjoy Carols in the Domain. And if I ended up there by myself, God forbid, then like that's obviously just how it's meant to be. And I'm meant to like enjoy that experience by myself. And the same goes with going to Europe. I've been talking about going to Europe for years. I've got so many people over there I want to connect with. But do you think I've pulled trigger? No. And so I'm like, this piece of it's becoming so apparent is like I go for the quick wins almost. And it's like, how can we step past the quick wins and step into the longer vision, which is really scary. To make commitments to, you know, buying houses. And like you bought this house and now you're transitioning and having it as an Airbnb. And it's like, we set these things, but you make it with such certainty. You've chosen your heart and you're picking it from that space. So it's like, well, it's obvious that it served its purpose at that time and now it's serving a new purpose, and it just naturally flows. Where I think it's me getting to that stage of the level of trust in that and in choosing my heart, and I'm making my decisions from there and being like, yes, that's it.
What's really helped me with that, like with choosing my heart in that way, and even the house is like a specific example, is letting it be, this is what I would love right now. Like, this is my truth now. This is my next step now. Like even this house, which we're in right now, is so beautiful. It's such a spacious, especially as a first home, and that we were able to purchase in a price bracket that it was too high to even get a first home buy. It's like, that's pretty cool. Not a cool system, by the way. Don't penalize me for doing well. That's annoying. but you know, like we're so privileged to be in this home. Well, we chose it, we created it, but like it's not my dream of dream homes. It's not. But as soon as we walked into this house, it was the vision of that time. And it was like, this is what's true in our hearts now. And that helps me just set aside any, but it's only got 4 bedrooms and I want to have 4 kids. It's like, it doesn't matter, because it's not my vision to be here when I have those 4 kids. I don't know how long I have to be here for that to, you know, it's like, unless I have quadruplets suddenly or whatever, you know, but yeah, it's not about that. And I think so often we throw these conditions of how it's meant to be or what we think it's going to look like or how long it has to be this good for or whatever at stuff, and it takes away the joy of now.
Yes.
And even transitioning with our house, it's been quite overwhelming for me, changing it from our home, which is this space of ritual with our community and magic and intimacy, and you know, it's been the home while we got married and planned our wedding. It's special to us, this space. And to open it and just go, I was having nightmares about strangers sleeping in our bed, and I kept having this recurring dream of I was trying to get in bed with Claire and I couldn't fit because there were all those other people in there, and then I didn't know where she was or if she was safe, or it was in me deep, you know, to be dreaming about it. And then I just had this redefinition of, it's not strangers in my home, it's people. Like, I don't go into Airbnbs and go, oh no, I'm in a stranger's house and oh, I can't sit on that couch because other people have, you don't freak out about the bed that you're getting in because you're in an Airbnb. You get in the bed, it kind of was a redefinition. But actually what held Claire and I through that process, because it was a lot to go through our house and not strip our character from it, but remove the personal embellishments. The photos are gone, the personal items. We had to ask the question, what if someone steals that? What if someone takes it? What if it gets broken? Do we care? Are we okay with it? Can we let go of it? It's been very cleansing. But what held us was we kept just saying to each other, I can't wait to travel the world with you. Because it wasn't actually us turning the house into an Airbnb, was just part of that process. And that's what we're choosing. We're choosing to go travel the world for however long we go do that. That's the choice, not really the Airbnb. It just becomes this pro that, because we do have a choice about having a property portfolio and we've been investing in property and blah, blah, blah. But it's just kind of this side perk that we can do it with this home.
Yeah, just supports.
Yeah. But the actual choice is we're going traveling.
Yeah.
And so when, especially actually, I got more overwhelmed than Claire. Well, Claire gets into to-dos and can get a little bit rat racy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how hers. And mine, I get overwhelmed and I panic that I feel unsafe. And yeah, Claire would just be like, that's okay. It's okay that you feel like that. And just remember, we're going to go travel the world together. And that's what it was about. And so it's similar even with your trip away. It's yeah, you might be alone, you might have friends, you might go with someone that you go, fuck, why did I come here with you? Or anything could happen, but you went there to watch the cows by candlelight. And that's what matters. Is your end result, not the process or the little details that make it happen. We could go traveling and this house could be empty and we'd be fine. It would be okay. But it is less expensive. It is having this backup plan here and hoarding. It's got this hoarding energy to it. It feels contracted. So yeah, that's a long way of saying it helps us to connect with what the true end result is. And then it kind of clears the cobwebs that I think we naturally want to put there as an illusion of protection.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Does anything come to mind when you think of taking the lid off and what you want to do in the next few years, or a longer vision?
Nah, my immediate thing is, I think it really is this space. It's I've been so surrounded by it for such a long time, but not fully deeply invested in it. Always had my toe in the water, go to a few things and then trickle back. But I ultimately know that is the space, that being in it helps just me in my evolution in my life, in my relationships, in my depth. And ultimately I also just feel I've had such a contraction on how much joy. So it's funny that we were talking about joy, because I know that's been such a contraction of mine to not allow myself to be in a state of joy, really the full permission of it. And I think it's whatever I choose next is I literally have an affirmation that's about I choose to be free and allow myself to experience joy daily, or something like that. And I think that felt so oof when I was saying it, but I was it's so true. And I think I'm just would be so happy and content if I show up daily and I can know that I chose joy in all my moments, work, personal life, all of that stuff. I just think you can't go wrong really when you're choosing joy and choosing your heart. So
It's
What are
really, really interesting. So obviously, I coach people in group scenarios and in one-on-one settings, but in the one-on-one stuff, like I mean, I see people really intimately in the group stuff too, but I go on these longer term journeys intimately with people in the one-on-one coaching, and something that can often be the case, like people will come and they just go, you know, they have their mental preconception of what they want to create. And so they might go, hate my job, want to start a business, hate my job, want a good, better job, or I'm lonely, I want a relationship, or you know, they have these like preconceived, or I want to be successful, so I need a house and a car and a dog and a happy partner and a baby. You know, whatever that conditioned version has been for them. And then we step into their land of plenty. So we step into this intuitive space of what their soul wants to create, and then it's completely different. And sometimes I reckon a third of the clients who come to me, their first land of plenty, because we do a fresh one every 9 or so months. For those who aren't familiar, the first one is really about coming home to themselves, because the life that they're in is so far removed from their true selves. They just need to find them again.
Yeah.
And when they cut the crap and let themselves do that, the journey they go on is phenomenal. And then maybe the next land of plenty has some cool shit for them to create in it. But what's the point? And this is what I say to them. What's the point of going and creating stuff when you're coming from a place of not even really knowing yourself, or not even really feeling like yourself? That's not the place to start a business from. It's not the place to, it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not the place to, I don't know, start a relationship from. Or it can be, you can grow in relationships, you can grow in business. I'm not saying there is a right way for everything, but to me, what you create from a place of this is my heart and this is who I am, it's gonna be more sustainable. It's gonna go through the test of time more powerfully.
Yeah.
And be more fulfilling.
Yeah.
That's
so wild. I was just thinking, because I've done a land of plenty in my coaching. And I remember my coach at the time was like, this is what I see, like, for your career. I was like, I was in the industry at the time, but I felt so contracted against it. And I was like, I don't want this. I'm coming here because I want to connect with myself and I want to find my next, because I want out. And I think it's so funny that, like, if I look at it now, I'm like, I'm still in that industry that they were speaking of. I'm still doing that thing, but I am getting so much more of myself in it, in like how I'm saying and how I'm showing up, and even the joy piece. Like, I can see it will like continually keep on coming back. But it's like, I'm just holding myself in a different space. But I remember so at the time, I was like, man, I don't even want to read this, because I'm just so like, ugh, I want out. But yeah, it's funny, mind blowing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And actually, I haven't experienced that before. Which is not to say that there's anything wrong with that was your experience, but I usually find that I kind of like have a little bit of resistance in people maybe before, or they've got a preconceived idea before the process. But then after the process, once we've given the reading and this is what I got and this is what I see, they're usually crying. If it's that first one when they're like, wow, I haven't been seen like this. It's really interesting. But I mean, everyone's experience is different, and I imagine I attract criers. I can see that.
Yeah. No, it was definitely like a cool process that I was like, this is cool. But I think that's like the mental filter that you can put on it straight away. You know what I mean? If you're not fully ready to receive your heart in that moment, I think that's so easy for you to be like, oh, mental.
The actual, like, the most important part of the process is the intention.
Yeah.
And like the emptying out before you start, because both you and your coach will have preconceived ideas.
Mm.
No matter how well your coach knows you, they're gonna have their egoic assumption of who you are and who you're meant to be and what you're meant to create and what kind of relationship you're meant to be in and blah blah blah. Like they're gonna have that.
Yeah.
And so are you. And so yeah, the intention of emptying out to receive who you're becoming is actually the most important part, which puts you back in innocence. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so speaking of emptying out and receiving, what has been your favorite part? Because you have this actual like double unique perspective on the album creation of being both in the art, and that I think by itself has been really transformational for all of us, but also being my friend and being with me in all these moments of listen to this song, listen to this version of this song and this draft of this one, and this is, you know, you've kind of been there for the evolution of a lot of the tracks as well, and being the person that's been with me on the day that I've got it back from the studio, or I just got it back yesterday, will you indulge me and come listen to it, you know? What's been like, I don't know, memorable moment for you along the way, or anything that stands out as in anything actually, just whether it was great or just, yeah, any sort of memorable moment, because it's such a unique perspective to see someone go through that and to be so intimately involved in the whole thing.
I think what I really found joy in, and it was interesting as well when you finally like released it. For me, I was like, it had just felt like, because I had been such a part of the process, it was like it's already been out. It's like it's been so much in my world that it was this weird of like, I felt resistance and like, how do I acknowledge and celebrate that too? How should I be showing up in that space for you? And so I think I was just like I think I just ended up texting you and be like, oh my God, it's out, like, oh. But like, it was like, yeah, how do I share that with like the broader community too? Because it just feels like your music is just so ingrained like in my life. And like, I think I messaged you one day and it wasn't even, maybe it was like the Temple of Magdalene. No, the Woman of the Womb, because I didn't really listen to that one before.
Yeah.
And I was driving and was having a really shit day. And I just found myself listening to it again and again and again. And I think I like sent you a picture and was like, oh my God, thank you. This like has held me so lovely. And I was like, this was just the OG. I was like, can't even like wait for people to hear the next one. And so I think that's been cool. It's like this piece of, yeah, being able to see the evolution and being able to be so surprised by like the depth in like what one you're writing, but two in how these tracks have come to life. They're just like, it's just so different and it just represents so many different facets of you. And I think that's been really cool, is to constantly be surprised in like every song and being like, wow, there's this part out, there's this part, and there's this part. And just knowing that, yeah, everyone gets like a little glimmer into that space for themselves and whatever that brings up for them. Yeah, and I think the biggest piece, like we looped on in the beginning, like just being able to be like, wow, that's Ellie who was on stage, you know, back in the day, and now here she is. And yeah, the life that has led to all those songs being birthed, the connections that have happened, it's just like incredible. And yeah, the invitation to be able to celebrate that and for people to be able to hear that, and yeah, to see you in that, being like, to feel, especially the songs you wrote for other people. Like I remember that moment with Mel when you played her the Temple of Lilith, and the like pure emotion, and like just to be able to be in that and be like, wow, that's when someone really receives a gift from someone else, and you can never replicate that. Like there will never be that moment again, and it is just so special to be able to, yeah, be in that and receive that. And it's just like, it's the gift. So yeah,
cool. Thanks for sharing that. It was so cool with Melanie that moment was captured.
Mm.
There's photos of that moment, and one of my, not regrets, but something I'm going to do differently next time is that I wish I had filmed more of like your facial expressions when you heard the songs for the first time.
Yeah.
Because the mental replay that I have is joy. I'd like to share that with people. But especially like, I don't know, I think you guys were, I think it was you and Rach Cherry.
Yeah. I was gonna say she's like gold in her expressions.
Yeah. But I think
Those dance moves?
Yeah, 100%. But both of you do that.
Yeah.
But I think that the first time I got a couple of the new tracks back, it was the two of you that I shared them with. It was here after one of our circle evenings. And yeah, both of your faces each time. And it was an upbeat track. And I think you were both laying down, gearing up for a ballad.
Yeah. Love a ballad.
Yeah. Which is like predictable me.
Yeah.
Or like what has been, what you've gotten. And so to get these different energies and then to see your reactions to all the different energies, because the tracks are all so unique, has been really cool. And I wish I had filmed more of that. I'm sure I filmed a few.
I think you have probably,
but I'm gonna have to go peel through all of that anyway. Next time I'm gonna film them all.
Even but those moments of like you showing the song to the person who'd written for the first time, like those are just gold. You know,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It
just makes you realize like how much you want to be in the moment, but how much sometimes you do want to capture those moments because they're just so special.
Yeah.
And that's like you just need someone following you around 24/7 in those cases to get them so you can fully be in it. Yeah. Instant wipe.
yeah, legitimately. But I feel like it would help me receive it. Like I don't need to be looking at the camera or touching the camera in those moments. But to be able to revisit it, like I think there's still a lot of receiving left for me to do. That's kind of part of sharing it, is actually receiving that it's out there and receiving other people receiving it.
Yes.
So, yeah. What is your favorite song on the album?
Oh. I think it's actually Woman of the Womb.
Yeah.
I was like going through the list in my head as well. I'm trying to remember all the names of them. But I really think it is. I think it surprised me. Like it was like I had access to that song for such a long time because it had been floating out there for a while. But yeah, I think since listening to that, and the Temple of Lilith is great too. I love the poppy upbeat of it. Like it has such a joyous state to it, and it definitely like it loops in there. Yeah, I think they are the two that currently right now have a pull for me. Yeah,
cool. It's fun asking everyone. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm gonna wrap us up. But before we do that, could you please share where people can come and connect with you if they want to come and be vulnerable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can, just for anything, like what, there'll be people who listen who resonate with you and who want to know you more and want to see more of what's going on in your world. And you do share beautiful things online, so
yeah, I'm like a sporadic sharer when the time is right.
Yeah.
But me and my dog do have an Instagram. So I'm Rachelo_94. What an amazing name. And then you can find the link to my cute dog Luna. Her Instagram too there.
Put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
Blooms didn't get much of a mention.
She didn't. She does enable you to be a full-time genius because she's just like, she holds you in that. She's like, man, play, have fun, love.
Certainly tested my vulnerability. Stories for another day. You'll have to come back.
She's great. Yeah, that's probably the best way to connect with me. Just a weirdly enough send me DM. I guess do that. if you want to connect. Yeah,
Yeah,
always
definitely.
up. Especially if you love Christmas and maybe you live in Melbourne. That might be such a great invitation. I could get a great pool of people for activities in Melbourne. Please, tour guide required.
That was a good plug. That's good. Yeah, if you want to go to Carols by Candlelight at the
We could
domain,
start, a thing Christmas Eve.
you might have a whole new tribe of friends to go with.
Or dancing to Christmas carols together. This is gonna be amazing.
We did it last year, but it wasn't at such a fabulous venue.
Yeah, it's quite local.
It was very local, very low key, and we were the only people dancing. That's okay.
Sometimes it's got to be the starters.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, thank you so much. It's been really fun and really easy. And I'm going to ask you about your dreams more.
Please do.
Yeah.
Challenge me, and I'll be like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, I will. I love you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for watching and listening.
It's the Genius Portal. Podcast is here. Come play in